Hello everyone and welcome back to my Bold and Beautiful 29 YouTube channel. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Before we start, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The Bold and the Beautiful spoilers recap for Tuesday, June 25th, reveals that Hope Logan plotted to reuse the news of Thomas Forrester and Paris Buckingham's engagement, but Douglas Forrester gushed over how important fun they all had in Paris. Douglas also told Hope that she didn't have to worry since Thomas loved Paris for real. Once Douglas left to find Ridge Forrester and Steffy Forrester, Paris also made herself scarce. After Hope set up herself alone with Thomas again, she flew off the handle. Hope admitted she allowed Thomas came back to renew their life together, but he said he wanted break the engagement news in person. Once Hope brought up the fact that Douglas was calling Paris Mom, Thomas allowed. That was reasonable, since they were going to be married. Hope had a hard time understanding how Thomas could move on so snappily like they were nothing, but he refocused out that Paris wanted to marry him. After Hope reminded Thomas that she just wasn't ready to take that step, Thomas said that part of him would always love Hope, but he'd to move on. Although what Thomas had with Hope was special, he argued that what he participated with Paris was special, too. Hope cried as she reflected on Thomas being her North Star when her life was upside down. Once Hope guessed Thomas was a one-woman man for Paris now, she asked if he was sure he loved her. Thomas claimed that he asked Paris to marry him, but Hope didn't suppose his new relationship could indeed begin to compare to what they endured together. As Hope continued to cry, she talked about how deep and real her own relationship with Thomas had been. This didn't have to be how it ended according to Hope, who said they could have so important future ahead if Thomas would choose a different path. Hope claimed they could still have it all and added that he didn't have to marry Paris. The gashes kept falling as Hope prayed Thomas not to go through with this. In the design office on Tuesday's B&B occasion, Steffi trashed Hope's line to Ridge again and acted like Hope had been going off the rails since Thomas left with Douglas. Although Steffi knew Hope criticized her for Thomas' decision to leave, she said she wasn't the reason he chose to go. Steffi refocused out that indeed Thomas understood that since she'd been in touch with him enough frequently on videotape exchanges. Douglas suddenly appeared, so he got some leverages from Ridge and Steffi as he surprised them with his homecoming. Steffi and Ridge realized this meant Douglas came back with Thomas, but Douglas refocused out that Thomas' fiancée was there, too. Steffi hugged Paris as she entered and admitted to Ridge that she knew Thomas was dating Paris, but she didn't realize they were engaged. Ridge sounded uneasy over the engagement updates, but Douglas claimed he was happy and that Thomas loved Paris for real. Once Douglas dashed off to find Charlie Weber, Steffi told Ridge that it wasn't her place to say anything about Paris and Thomas' relationship. Paris confessed that they weren't sure how Ridge would reply since it happened presto. That said, Paris defended their love and talked about how trying to cheer Thomas over turned into a profound connection. Paris claimed that she loved Thomas and knew he really loved her. Once Paris conceded that Hope knew about the engagement, she explained that Thomas was in the other room talking to her. Steffi wondered if it was wise to leave Hope and Thomas alone, considering their history. Although Steffi knew Thomas had moved on, she didn't know if Hope was ready to let go. Paris was insecure about her relationship and felt certain that Thomas was over Hope, so she didn't partake Steffi's enterprises. The Bold and the Beautiful spoilers say Hope may spin out indeed more now that Thomas is digging his heels in on this new marriage, so stick with us for further prognostications on the rocky road ahead. Hope Logan is stupefied that Paris Buckingham and Thomas Forrester are engaged. Thomas was trying to tell Hope, Douglas Forrester thinks he said commodity wrong. Thomas says he proposed and Paris accepted. Ridge Forrester and Steffi Forrester talk about how Hope for the future hasn't been the same since Thomas left. Hope Logan begs for another chance. Hope cannot believe that Thomas just came back to city to advertise his engagement. Thomas didn't feel that a phone call was applicable. Hope wants to know when this happened. Thomas and Paris started hanging out when he got to Forrester International. Douglas says he has missed his mama a lot and goes to see his granddad and Steffi. Hope cannot believe Thomas only came back to city for this. Hope prodigies how she could have been so wrong. Hope aloud. Everything was going to be okay. Hope aloud. Thomas came back to her. Hope is furious that Douglas is calling Paris mama. Paris knows why Thomas had to leave LA. Hope believes he's moving too presto. Paris wants to marry him. Hope didn't. Hope says there are other ways to be committed. A part of Thomas will always love Hope, but he to move on, she gave him no choice. Hope says Thomas could have stayed and they could have worked this out. Thomas has known Paris for a long time. Thomas will no way forget what they had. Hope wants to know how he could move on so presto. Thomas tells Hope it's going to be okay. Thomas was her constant, her northern star. Hope could always look to Thomas for guidance and stability. Thomas was her one-woman man. Thomas still is, but she ain't that woman presently. Hope asks if Thomas is sure he loves Paris. Hope asks if Thomas loves Paris. Thomas asked her to marry him. Thomas proposed to Hope doubly, and she turned him down. Hope says what Thomas has with Paris will no way be close to what they had. Hope says what they had was a temporary thing, they created commodity beautiful. A man has no way moved Hope the way Thomas has. Hope says it doesn't have to be like this. Hope says there's so important future ahead for them if they just want it. Hope says they can still have that. Hope begs Thomas to not go through with this. Ridge Forrester predicts a turnaround. Ridge agrees with Steffi, but the line is in transition. Zen Forrester and RJ Forrester are great contrivers. Zen's experience is what will pull effects through. Steffi says Hope is losing it, she hasn't been the same since Thomas left. Steffi says Hope no way realized how poorly she hurt Thomas. Steffi says Hope resents her for seeing the verity. Hope sees Steffi as the reason Thomas left city. Ridge says Paris has been really good to them. Douglas arrives and Ridge agrees, it's a surprise. Thomas Forrester's engagement news breaks. Ridge is stupefied to learn that Thomas is engaged. Steffi knew Thomas and Paris were dating, but had no idea they were engaged. Douglas says he gave it down again, Thomas wanted to tell everyone together. Douglas leaves to go visit Charlie Weber. Steffi knew Thomas and Paris were dating. Ridge wants to know how long Thomas and Paris have been dating. Paris was trying to cheer Thomas up at first. Over time, Thomas and Paris fell in love. Paris loves Thomas, and she knows he loves her. Steffi wants to know where Thomas is. Paris says Thomas is with Hope. Paris left them alone to talk. Steffi prodigies if that was wise. Paris isn't concerned about that. Paris believes Thomas loves her and is eventually over Hope.